likes to say hi before we get going and talk to you real quick. An amazing talent, ladies and gentlemen. A man who's about to get his PhD, like very, very soon at the end of this year. Give it up for Buckaroo Banzai himself. This is the second time I've ever seen this film on a big screen too. Thank you very much, Kevin. I'm very honored what you said backstage too, that this is absolutely one of the most distasteful movies that you ever saw in your life. I said it was one of the great, glorious movies you ever saw. I never had so much fun doing this film. You know, to act with John Lithgow and Christopher Lloyd, Nolan Barkin, and Jeff Goldblum. It was a laugh a minute, and you'll see a scene at the end when I'm being tortured by John Lithgow, and Christopher Lloyd is eating Doritos behind me. It took them 50 takes to do my close-up because I was laughing so hard I just couldn't do it. When you hear John Lithgow and his Martian Italian accent and Christopher Lloyd, I mean, what can you say about Christopher Lloyd? They all remain good friends, but Christopher Lloyd is a special friend of this day. It was fun beyond dreams. Now, I just want to tell you this. I have no idea what this movie is about. So at the end of the film, there'll be a pop quiz, and if Kevin or somebody else can explain this film to me, I'd be very happy. Thank you. Everything at once. It just looked different. So I was looking forward to this movie for a long time. Kept trying to find out when it would come out. We didn't have the internet back then. We had like Fangoria and Starlog and the Encyclopedia Britannica. They weren't talking about this movie yet. So it was tough to get information on it. And then eventually it just never shut up. I'd go to the Middletown movie theater every week. I'd be like, you guys get this movie called Buckaroo Banzai? And they'd look at you strange. Never wound up showing up. One day I was at the Video Movie House in Atlantic Highlands, and there was a poster, the same poster that was back on the comic book, hanging up on the wall for Buckaroo Banzai. And I ran to the counter, I was like, when the fuck is this movie coming out? I was 14, so I probably didn't say fuck yet. I said, when is this movie coming out? And they were like, well, clearly it says, well, I guess it was December, I forget what the date was. And I was like, first off, can I have this poster? And they're like, no, we just put it up. I was like, can I put your name down on a list to get this poster when you guys are done with it? And they were like, okay. Is there a list for the movie? And they're like, there will be now, I guess. Put me right at the top. He's like, I get it. And I would come into the Video Movie House and ask constantly. The month of December never had a date, so I'd come. I think it was December it came out. I would come in, whatever that month was, for every fucking day, and just be like, hey man, is it in yet? No. Is it in yet? No. Finally, they gave me a call, and I took it home. Now, expectation is high for a movie like that. You know, I waited for it. I, at this point, had the poster. When I came to get the video, they also gave me the poster. They were so fucking sweet there. Had it up on my wall, went and sat down to watch it. You've just watched this movie. So most of you have probably seen it. Maybe some of you haven't. There are many weird, wonderful movies that we've all seen by this point in our lives. 1984, I'm 14 years old. This is the most weird and wonderful thing I've ever seen. It is a movie that defies every possible genre and convention of the genre that it pretends to dance with. This movie is so fucking individual. It just sweeps you off your feet. I was just taken away. It's a movie that does not conform to any traditional storytelling that you're used to from years of watching movies. It doesn't give a shit whether you know what's going on or not. It dumps you right into the middle of the existing universe that things have happened in before, and the movie accepts the fact that, hey, our audience might be bright enough to catch up, and when they do, they'll really enjoy it. If not, they're just going to be like stupefied by everything that's going on, and they'll catch it second time, you know. It takes you weird, wonderful places that few films that I'd ever seen at that point in my life, certainly, and even to this day, have ever done. By virtue of that, there's no better definition or label for this movie, if you have to put a label on it, than art film. This is a true piece of art, man. It doesn't give a fuck what you bring to the table. It brings itself to the table and says, figure it out, you know? And then it doesn't go like, oh, we'll spoon feed you a happy ending to make you feel good about it and make you feel like, oh, I've spent my time wisely. At the end of the movie, these credits start rolling, everyone starts going like, is it done? Did they win? I think they won. So what big deal? What is it? I don't understand. And it doesn't care. It never made up for it. Like, this is a movie that I've been following now for years, since 1984, and no one's ever been able to kind of sit down and say, like, oh yeah, it fits this, it fits this. Not at all. This is a true original and inspiring, man. Everything I've ever done in my life has always tried to live up to this. The moment I finished watching that movie, my brain turned off the mainstream and I started looking at other movies, you know? Like, this was the same year as Back to the Future, I believe, which is a weird, wonderful mainstream movie with great 3-act structure, fantastic story, not knocking it at all, but it has a happy ending and you can pretty much see where it's going sometimes. This movie came out same fucking year, deals in weird interdimensional travel and shit like that, but is so far at the other end of the spectrum that it stays, Back to the Future may stay here, this stays here forever. You know, it just comes and goes with you. Everything you do infects the art. It's almost like seeing it was like Banzai getting the call and getting hit by the shock, and suddenly he was a changed man. Same for me. It's influenced everything I've done, right down to the fact as I was sitting in the back watching it, I own a fucking bus now as well, you know? Really weird, really weird. And it's gotta come from this movie. Sitting in the back, I was enjoying myself. I'd never seen it on a big screen. It was fantastic. I was sitting there saying lines along with it. I remember being 14. This is one of those movies you showed to all your friends, and then you started imitating it. One of the first movies, along with Raising Arizona, that I started doing dialogue from, dropping lines from. This was a movie that was pop culture, referencing pop culture. Like, at one point they talk about, you know, Orson Welles' War of the Worlds broadcast. And it transformed me. That's why we're talking about it tonight. But let's talk to two people without whom this movie doesn't exist. You met him briefly before we got started. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Buckaroo Banzai himself. Right now, I was standing in the back watching the credits, wiping sweat off, getting ready to come down, and somebody said, Kevin, and I looked over, and I almost had a fucking heart attack, because it was Roberta Muldoon from The World According to Garth, but we all know much, much better as Lord John Whorfin. Give it up for John Lithgow. There's something we never saw in the movie, the hug. Wow, this movie still packs a punch, man, and there are a bunch of things we can talk about. I'm not going to make you go. Come over here so you don't have to keep looking over your shoulder. But let's begin with the first moment you guys get the script. It's got to make an impact. I mean, you know, I'd be so disappointed if you're like, I don't remember. Like, it's one of these scripts that you got to open and be like, Jesus Christ, this could ruin everything.
Well, that's pretty accurate. I was completely bewildered by it. Had no idea what to make of it, and I didn't agree. I didn't really want to do it. It was way too out there for me. But I sat and met with W.D. Richter, Rick Richter, and Earl Rauch, and they were so enthusiastic and exhilarating. They completely sold me on it in like no time at all. Like the minute I met them, I thought these guys are going to be so much fun to work with. And in fact, I remember Rick even saying that. He said, just do this movie. Either it won't work and it'll be nothing, or it'll be really, really interesting. And I thought, well, that's a good philosophy of life. And I signed on and immediately started loving it as we gradually put it together.
And did they go after you? They were thinking specifically about you, I think I read somewhere from the jump.
Yeah.
Based on what, do you think? What did they see you?
He said, of all things, I was in a very little, kind of very naturalistic movie that was made in New York in the late 70s called Rich Kids. And I just played a kind of anguished, foolish divorcing father of a daughter, a young daughter.
Yeah, I can see the influence here.
He was very earnest, you know. He was kind of a comical, foolish character, but it was very earnest, real, you know. It was not unlike me at all. And he said, "That's my Lazardo." What does that mean? But tell us about your first look at it.
No, I felt the same way. Richter came after me. I guess he seen me in Shoot the Moon, and I read it, and I couldn't get through it. I mean, it was like reading an almanac or something. I didn't. But your panegyric for the film, I have to say, is one of the. It's one of the most articulate. Not just because I'm in the movie or John's in the movie. It's one of the most beautiful summations of the film ever. Because I have to say, at the end of the day, one of the guns of 20th Century Fox called a meeting for me when the movie was about to come out. And I said, well, I'm going to promote it and so on, but others said they wanted to meet. And I sat with this woman, and she said, in your opinion, how should we market this film? And I knew that it was by that it was a great film, but that Fox had no clue. But no, I didn't quite understand it. But they came after me like John. But once you met the writer of it, Earl Rauch, who's a real savant. He was a summa cum laude at MIT in engineering, and he wore his little buzz cut, and he wore these marine pants and red Converse All-Stars, drove around in a pickup truck with a golden retriever, with big sort of convex glasses on, and you never knew what was coming out of his mouth. Then I knew, the sort of genius, but I didn't understand it, and I don't quite understand it to this day. And I think you explain it, because it's a genre defier, really. Is it a comedy? What is it, an action adventure? What is it, a science fiction thing? I don't know what it is.
That's what's beautiful about it. It's like column A, column B. It's basically Fat Man's Delight, because it's a buffet of movies. Everything you get to pick from, a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah, but I agree, Peter. Listening to Kevin talk about it, I felt like I'm so proud to be in a film that would have that kind of impact on you, and you standing in for thousands and thousands of freaks. Wish I had a nickel for how many times I've been asked to say, "Laugh while you can, monkey boy."
Quiet moments would be in class, doing a test, just be sitting down there, head down, and go, "Hey, Banzai, take a look at your girlfriend." That's how I learned Italian, was watching that movie.
I have to point out, did you see in the credits crawl at the end, my dialect coach? Almost defines me. My dialect coach was this tailor in the costume department down there at Sony, and whenever he had fit my clothes a few times, named Roberto Terminelli, and he had this fantastic accent, and all I did was go down and have him record my part. Never acted in his life. Never coached any dialect.
You did? You had him record it? You put him on the
Yeah. I want to hear you say these things. And I got him that credit.
Because I live in Italy, and I now, I didn't then, but I speak fluent Italian, and whenever I sort of, I get the latest DVD in the mail and so on, and I look at that, and it's always curious to me, like, who gave Lithgow this fantastic accent? And I wonder who this Roberto guy is. And I've never heard of him again. I've never heard of him ever coaching anyone, or filmmaking. And now I find out he's the friggin' costumer in the basement.
It was the high point of his career.
He gave you your tie, man. He put that tie on Buckaroo Banzai, and he gave Whorfin an accent, or Lazardo rather, an accent. Do you get approached by Italian people who are like, "Fuck you"?
Actually, no. In Paris, I was walking down Saint-Germain in Paris, and there was this kind of intense-looking man who saw me pass by. And our eyes met. He passed me by, and then he ran back and overtook me and stopped me. He says, "My name is Cesare Ferrari. I'm your voice in Italian movies." He had this desperate look like, "When are you going to do more movies?" Amazing to think that he dubbed Buckaroo Banzai.
Maybe he did it in a really bad American accent.
He dubbed it in English.
The writer, how do you pronounce the writer's name? I've never known how to say it.
Earl Mac Rauch.
Earl Mac Rauch. And what did you guys call him? Earl Mac Rauch?
Mac, actually, yeah.
This, I've read a lot about him on the internet as much as I could find and whatnot. This was a dude who was working on several different scripts for several different Buckaroo Banzai. First it was Buckaroo Bandy, and then I think it was, what's his name, W.D. Richter, what did you guys call him? Rick. He was the one that suggested call it Buckaroo Banzai, and then it kind of, they started building Western theme around it. He wrote, according to what I read, several different screenplays, started a bunch and wouldn't finish any of them, would start and then let it just stop. And he kept expanding a universe that nobody knew about, which I always loved. Like when I remember seeing this movie on video and going out and searching for the novelization because I saw it listed somewhere, and the novel that I guess he had written himself was so dense and so packed and filled in so many questions that anybody that loved the movie might not have known about, and also whetted your appetite for shit like Hanoi Xan is coming next, the guy that killed Peggy and stuff like that. And then it never fucking came. But I remember being entranced by the story because it doesn't go any place you want it to. It won't conform at all. Was he around? Was the writer around on set the whole time?
Yeah. And going back to that lunch, when they persuaded me to do it, they were full of all these other stories. They had clearly created this extremely complicated backstory and things that were going to happen. My impression, I don't know whether I'm right or not, but I think they were Dartmouth roommates or something.
I remember reading that as well.
And that they used to just kind of riff on Buckaroo Banzai stories.
The story that I read online was one of them, W.D. had read a book that Earl Rauch had written, and he liked it. He saw he was from Dartmouth, and he reached out to him. He was like, "Hey man, I'm from Dartmouth too." And it's Dartmouth or Dartmouth? Dartmouth. Sorry. Oh my God, before it was like Lithgow. So he reached out to him, they became friends, and then they started talking about screenwriting, and they started talking about the creation of this character, and it went on for years. Until I guess W.D. had taken off or gotten a career in the business, and they said, "Come on out." They started working on this slowly.
I think he wrote New York, New York.
Yeah.
The screenplay of that.
Earl or Rick?
Earl, yeah. And he was really a mind like a trap, man. He was a genius head. I had a couple of lunches with him, and he was around. He had engineering stuff, and he had done an entire tour of the Bible Belt tent revivals for 2 summers, and was taking notes on writing a comedy about Bible Belt tent revivals. He's an astounding guy. And he was also unedited. You had to be very careful diplomatically. The powers that be had to be careful about where he was, because he would say anything to anyone. And this company was owned essentially or financed by the Hunt brothers at the time, before they tried to corner the silver market. And they made Mr. Mom, War Games, in this film. And they'd send all of their finance buddies, World Bank guys, around the set, and they always said, "Be on the lookout for Earl, because you don't know what's going to come out of his mouth." So they were afraid of him.
Keep him away from money people. Especially after they saw the movie, I'm sure they're like, "Get us the writer fast."
Well, he's actually a hick from East Texas. I mean, he's a small town outside of Pecos, Texas. Where it's from.
It's weird. It's like the movie is a snapshot of inside the dude's head, but not the entire thing, just a little section. And you would get the distinct impression that a few more snapshots would make everything clear, but you only get this quick view, and then you're quickly out again. And it just leaves you wanting more because of it. Did you have to jump through hoops to play the lead, or they went right to you?
No, I was considering doing another film, and for less money, but another studio film, and they did essentially with John. You know, they sat me down several times and said, well, look, guys, I don't get this film. You know, can you tell me what it is? And they just said, well, pick a conglomeration of who you think is extraordinary in the world, and that's what it's about. So essentially, I sort of modeled this guy after Jacques Cousteau and Adam Ant. That's, you know, was my blueprint for doing Buckaroo Banzai. But no, I had to be convinced. I was like, John, it's like reading truly, you know, a scientific almanac, man.
But they were very interested in what we suggested.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, they were all suggestions.
You know, they had this thing that Lazardo fed off Twinkies and electricity.
Yeah.
And that's so. I came up with the idea of the shock wigs, as if his wigs. And we talked about his metabolism having gotten fucked up since the 1930s, when his body was inhabited when the Italian. I sort of mixed Enrico Fermi and Mussolini, and with a fucked up metabolism. So I had to wear 2 of everything because I was cold all the time. Of course, we shot Yo-Yo 9 in East Los Angeles in August.
It's horrible. Speaking of Mussolini, the thing I loved about your speech, you know, his great speech at the end, is truly one of the cleverest things I've ever seen. Perfectly, you are in the dark. But that thing that you do that is actually Mussolini, where you say something and and he loved it. You know, he loves Mussolini does that.
Yeah, but I did check him out. I had a look at some Mussolini footage.
Yeah, it's wonderful stuff. Wonderful. And I have to say once again, I could not. I don't know if John remembers this, but you didn't see it in the close-ups and so on, but in that scene where they're shocking me, I had not been this far away from John's face while he is like regurgitating this Martian Italian nonsense at me, but in the back, remember Christopher Lloyd was eating Doritos. And I could not do a close-up. I think I did 50 takes in my reverse on that. And I laughed myself out of the shot. I couldn't.
It laughter all the time.
Yeah,
we were just laughing ourselves silly.
Yeah. It's an amazing scene that really encapsulates that movie, because there is that moment where, you know, you give that fucking speech and it's rousing and it's like funny and terrifying, and it ends with, you know, where are we going? Planet 10. When are we going? Real soon. I remember showing that to friends, and like, you really figure out who you want to hang out with by watching Buckaroo Banzai. Because if you watch it with friends who are like, that's fucking stupid, you're like, get out. Because it becomes religion to you.
Actually, there is a moment in the film, the moment when Chris Lloyd gives me the finger. And of course, everybody's looking at Chris Lloyd giving me the finger, but if you look at me, I'm getting my helmet and kissing it and hiding the fact that I'm laughing. Get a good look next time, the next several times.
Yeah, God, he was funny, wasn't he? God, he is funny, but he was so funny.
And those poor schmucks, they were stuck in those masks. We had to, we would have lunch with them and have long conversations. We sort of got used to it. Yeah. But it was so hilarious.
And those are funny guys, Danny Hedaya and Vincent Schiavelli, bless his heart, is not with us anymore. They're funny guys, too. The whole cast was just gifted.
When you're shooting something like this, about how far into it are you like, man, I made a huge mistake? Or are you committed the whole way in? Or are you just like, you know what, man, I'm going with it?
I'm going to say I've only made one film where I thought, wow, this was a huge mistake. But this is certainly not at all. I mean,
right.
From the jump, once I said yes and I came out to LA to do it, it was a rocket ride. It was just the most fun, some of the most fun I've ever had, ever. So I was never a doubt. Look, here's the thing, a great thing I just want to say. Sidney Lumet, I did my third film with Sidney Lumet, and I had done my second film, and it was also for 20th Century, Butch and Cassidy, the early years, which is a prequel to which guy says Sundance Kid? You played LaFours, didn't you play LaFours? I played LaFours, I played Joe LaFours. Who are those guys? Who are those guys? Also with Christopher Lloyd, who's a friend of mine from the theater, as John is a friend from the theater. And I was talking to Lumet before I started the film, and he said, how's the movie? And I said, well, I hear it's a dog, you know, it's a piece of shit, blah, 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 blah. And Sidney Lumet, I learned so many things from him, but he's a man of great integrity. He said, listen, I just want to tell you, I know you're young, but I'm not talking down here, but do not let the experience, do not let the marketing or the success financially of a film ever invalidate the richness of the film you made. You know, don't be one of those people. Because if you had a great time making Butch and Sundance in the early years, which I did, you know, don't naysay it later on and jump into the criticism. And I learned that from this. And by this film, I kind of let that go. I know that's out of my hands, do the best I can, they're going to market it, it'll be a success or not a success. But, you know, as a young actor, I was falling into that thing, well, if it's not going to be a hit, then I'm going to be one of those, you know, air suckers who kind of denigrates his own shit. And I'm glad Lumet gave me that lesson, so, you know, the film takes on a life of its own, and this one certainly did. I had a ball doing it.
Star Wars, but I just thought it was going to be, it blow people's minds so big time. I thought everybody was going to respond the way you respond. And, you know, I don't know how much you know about the whole backstage of the release of the film.
Oh, Jesus, tell us, please.
It got absolutely dropped between two regimes at Fox.
Is that what ultimately happened?
Yeah,
it was pitched to one regime?
Because it came out just when one gang was gone and Barry Diller's gang was coming in.
Yeah.
And not to mention the fact that they didn't know what it was or what to do with it. You know, that's I completely believe that they were asking you how to market it.
Yeah.
But the other thing is the producers themselves at the high level didn't know what they had. To me, the most telling fact about this whole film and its lack of conventional success is the fact that David Begelman, who was truly in charge, he was our executive producer, one of Hollywood's great scoundrels, he was our producer, and about 2 or 3 weeks into the film, he insisted that the DP be changed, the cinematographer. We started out with Jordan Cronenweth.
Yeah.
One of the
geniuses.
One of the geniuses. And Rick had always wanted...
Blade Runner, did we see that?
And look at the film. The scenes that you can tell which scenes he shot. He shot the great nightclub scene.
Yeah.
Remember, wherever you go, there you are.
That's right.
And you can see the difference between that and the whole rest of the film. Begelman said, no, we're going way wrong with this. Richter's model for the film was Diva, for the look of the film. He wanted it to have that gorgeous, suffused with color, lots of dust in the air, you know, that incredible lighting that Cronenweth was so brilliant at. And Cronenweth said, no, Begelman said, no, we want it to look more like Raiders of the Lost Ark. And Rick and Earl fought, and they just lost. They didn't have enough power to withstand this. So instead of Cronenweth, we got Fred Konenkamp, who shot Patton. And look at the difference. I mean, what you end up with is the thing that we all love about Buckaroo Banzai, this kind of cheesy, almost two-dimensional cinematography. That's not what they wanted at all.
Right.
They had to accede to that.
Jordan, can you wake him up or ask him if he's on narcotics or something, the guy next to you? Yeah, he's snoring louder than I was speaking.
That's when I started talking.
Yeah, Jordan shot about almost a half. I think he almost shot a half. And that's, they didn't know what they had. The producers didn't know what they had.
They didn't know what it was.
And another interesting thing is that Bruce McNall, who, bless his heart, who owned the studio at the time, who later went to jail, but he was a friend of mine, and he benefited the film, would call me up and say, look, the Hunt brothers are sending their friends from Credit Lyonnais, you know, to come and watch the film being made. I get these every 2 weeks. The World Bank, Credit Lyonnais, I don't know, UBS, you know, Bank of America. These guys who are in bed with the money capitals of the world would come to watch the film. and they would, a film being shot. Now, as John will tell you, he was doing a movie set, at any point in time, there's only 5 people working. And there's 180 people sitting around, you know, doing bingo or playing poker or smoking cigars.
Looks like yo-yo dying.
Yeah, it looks like, and so I try to be the host, and I take these guys who were Beagleman's buddies and these finance guys, you know, around. I said, look at this set, and this is their rocket ship, and this, you know, I don't know what the hell I was talking about. And all I could see is them going, you know, watching dollar signs like a slot machine go through their eyes, going, and what are those guys doing? Oh, those guys are like grips. I said, well, what do they do? It's other than sit around. I said, well, no, they're going to move in a minute. They're going to switch. And you just see that the idea of putting money into a film was as far away from reality that these guys could conceive. And subsequently, you know, that's how much the producing line was really in touch with the film. Because people wouldn't understand. I didn't understand the film, so why were they sending these people?
Wait, what was the Bruce McNall connection? Was
Bruce McNall owned the Sherwood.
Sherwood?
Yeah.
And Bruce McNall's the guy that brought Gretzky to the Kings in Los Angeles, right?
Correct.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And also the guy that introduced me to ancient Roman coins, and hence I'm finishing a PhD.
Is that really? Because he was into rare coins.
Yeah,
that was
the source of his first millions.
Yeah.
Ancient Roman coins.
Yeah.
And so wait, he exposed you to coins, and that's what you're PhDing in right now?
My PhD's in Italian Renaissance art history and ancient Rome, but my whole fascination and entree to Rome was through numismatics vis-a-vis Bruce McNall.
And you wonder why they wanted you for Buckaroo.
I think you just...
By the way, aren't you a Fulbright scholar?
Yes, and a brain surgeon.
Yeah. You know, the thing is that I just applied for a Fulbright on behalf of the state of California and UCLA, and I got all this support to apply for a Fulbright. He is a Fulbright scholar, this guy. Give him for that.
I used to think you were a genius actor, but it just seems like you're playing yourself now, man. Like a genius guy.
No,
with multi-talent.
Well, I did play the trumpet, and I did sing, and I did play the solo, and then it was tweaked again and again by the guy who did Flashdance, Michael. Michael's.
Sembella.
Yeah, exactly. He tweaked it up. So I got to do all the music stuff, and that's what was sewing to me, to do that, because I started off life as a musician with the music school and so on, and still play with Jeff when we can in a group. But so yeah, you got to do it all, man. You know.
That dude is now wide awake in the front row. You got fucking bitch slapped by RoboCop.
Yeah, man, don't fall asleep while I'm talking about it. You know, go to the back of the class and
Do you remember, John, the first time you saw the completed film?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw it. I saw it by myself. I think I'd been overseas on a film or something, and so I think I saw it just with my wife and my son in a big empty screening room at Fox. Everybody else had seen it, and I was absolutely thrilled with it, completely thrilled. And I think that was still in the stage when I thought we'd made the next Star Wars. Such an optimist.
What did your wife and kid think?
Well, you know, it's so funny. Both my sons think it's the best acting on film I've ever done. And I'm not displeased that that's their opinion. It's certainly the biggest, if not the best.
And this is coming on the heels of 2 back-to-back Oscar nominations,
yeah.
Right? It was for Terms of Endearment,
Garp, and then Terms of Endearment, and then this, yes. Footloose and Twilight Zone mixed in. It all happened. Like, all my really great movies were made in about a 3-year stretch. I consider this one of them.
Did you sit in the theater when you watched it the first time? You were like, nomination number 3 coming up.
There was a cheesy sort of horror and fantasy award. But curiously, I did win that, but for Twilight Zone.
Later on?
The same year, yeah.
Oh my God, that's right. You're like geek royalty, man. And both of you are Dexter people now as well.
Dexter. great set that is, Dexter.
Yeah. We haven't talked about it.
No.
You were great.
Yeah, well, I thought you were phenomenal.
I mean,
but, you know,
you were incredible. You were just incredible.
No, you. Actually, the first time I saw John Lithgow was in the changing room, and on Broadway.
Is it a show?
Oh, John Lithgow is formidable. Have you ever seen
That was
the
a play, The Changing Room?
Has anyone ever seen, like, my theater days correspond with John's theater days, and my theater days have, thinned out, but to see John Lithgow on stage is powerful stuff.
Well, and I saw you doing streamers.
Yeah, doing streamers, that's right. Yeah.
Why don't you guys just get a fucking room already?
You brought up Dexter.
That's true, very true. All right, take me back to the moment when did they do a premiere for a movie like this? In a world where they're like, we don't know how to market it.
They did a premiere for the movie here in New York that I went to, and on that night, a girl walked up and said, gee, I really liked your movie. Have you got another stick of that bubblegum you're chewing? That's what she said. I really liked that movie, but have you got another stick of that bubblegum you're chewing? And it was Madonna. And I met Madonna. I said, sure. And, Roseanne Arquette.
They were working on
that. You know who that is? I said, no. She said, that's the next super rock star in the world. I said, oh, really? Sure.
She's like, well, I play a horn myself.
Yeah, I felt the same way as John. I thought I was absolutely in love with the movie. I was stunned by it, and at the same time, there was a voice in the back of my head that said, is everybody going to get this? Mm-hmm. So I reiterate what John said about you, that was that, it's for the... Boy, it's a dense flick, and it's fun, and it's unique.
I do remember that there were certain people who did think it was a huge smash. It was completely packed in New York, late into the night.
Yeah.
I was not in New York, but I got all, people were saying, my God, this film is huge. Yeah. People are crazy about this movie. And, you sort of nursed hopes that it would spread and grow. And in a sense, it did.
Just took a little longer.
But as far as Hollywood was concerned, it was a flop. And, the boys really did intend to do a sequel. They really were thinking about that fabulous stroke of arrogance. Look for the next one. They meant that. They had it all planned. Hopefully with other producers. I mean, it was kind of poignant because they were such good-hearted guys, and they had such a clear vision and such passion for what they were doing. And those are the people you always want to work with. And they were overwhelmed by the things they had to negotiate.
They were. I mean, now I hope they see, and I'm sure they do with time. They were right. They were just so far ahead of the fucking curve that it took people like almost a decade, if not two, to kind of catch up to what they were doing. At what point does the movie then, it comes out, doesn't really do much, and goes away? When does it start re-entering your lives? How soon before you start hearing people go like, oh my God, man, I love Buckaroo Banzai?
For me, it has absolutely never stopped.
It never was a pause.
Yeah.
It never was a pause. I mean, it wasn't a blockbuster, it wasn't a hit, and like John said, by commercial value, as a movie opens, it was a deadbeat, and it did get caught between Diller and Alan Ladd Jr., I think, but even Diller has talked about it as if it's like his film. And so, but I never heard anybody, there was never a lull as far as people saying, wow. That's the interesting thing about it. And by all accounts, the flattery that has been thrown my way since the movie, you'd think it was a huge hit. Because as many people talk about that as any movie I've ever done.
And they're all, I'm greeted frequently by people who say, oh, I loved you in such and such. And it's been quite a variety of things. The coolest people, you know what they're going to say.
The hipsters, man.
The hipsters, you know, absolutely.
Yes, down on Buckaroo.
It's usually dudes eating Twinkies.
Should we field a couple of questions?
Yeah, that's what's next. Right. We're going to them now.
All right, I leave it to you, man. You're in charge.
Not at all. You're in charge, boss. That's all.
A guy who drives a jet car through a mountain is not lacking in control-free guns.
Let's open it up to you guys, man. Questions from the audience. I'm going to hit you with a mic if that's cool. Unless, is there a roaming one? If not, I can just do this. Hey.
Oh my God, he's got the shirt on.
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah, whenever I've seen one of these people I saw a guy the other day, he came up to a fundraiser and he had a tattoo of RoboCop on his neck. And he just look at this. And about that time I'm thinking, okay, where's the Glock 9mm?
Not so much a question, but a comment. My name is Gareth Skarka. I'm a writer and a game designer. I have a license through Mac and Rick to do a Buckaroo Banzai role-playing game. And I just wanted to tell you, to echo Kevin's thing, I think they used to say that the Velvet Underground, only like 1,000 people ever saw him play, but every one of those 1,000 people started a band. And I think that Buckaroo Banzai had the same effect on creative types. Anybody who saw that movie and had it burrow into our heads, we went out and created stuff, so thank you.
You're welcome.
There's one up there.
Did you get any feedback from the Jamaican people about...
Did you get any feedback from the Jamaican people?
No?
No, I got feedback from American blacks, though, that thought it was, like, so racially hip, right? That there's a metaphor in there. If you notice, the bad guys are redneck aliens.
Right.
I mean, are you getting that at all? Like
Yeah.
And they literally have red.
And the blacks are the good ones.
Yeah, the blacks are the good guys, yeah.
And I would say no. That's, by the way, is Carl Lumbly, who plays the good John Parker.
Great.
Wonderful actor. Whatever happened to the sequel? Well, I'm waiting. I was blasted in the 8th dimension. So, but the boys did want me to play Hanoi Xan. At least they told me that. Yeah. Of course, I would have been in real trouble with the Vietnamese.
It's all bound up in legalities. They try to do a TV series. I've always been talking about sequels, and there's a legal hassle with it about who owns what with it. And I think that's what's really stopped it.
That is so awesome that you were going to play Hanoi Xan. They told you that?
Yeah,
That would have been an awesome way to bring you back.
Well, they wanted me to think about it. That sounds good. I've been thinking about it ever since.
Have you been looking for like a wardrobe guy that does Vietnamese?
I wouldn't want to get Roberto Carbonelli involved.
Somebody else. Yeah, right up there. Go ahead.
It's okay.
Security.
He doesn't have no weapon. No weapon.
Oh, he doesn't have a 9mm.
Just sort of echoing what he had said about the movie and the impact that it has had on people who like it and creative types. At the time, there was a newsletter that was put out by some of the people at Fox that was then continued by some fans after that, and then has come back bits and pieces over time, over the 20th anniversary, whatever, and all that kind of stuff. And what we had done is taken some of the best articles from that in the last 10 years and threw them together for this, and they were out in the lobby, and hopefully there are still some there if you didn't grab one. But we wanted to make sure that you guys got a copy of the newsletter. And at the time that the DVD came out, the special edition with all the extra footage, we had an article in Video Watchdog. So we've got you on the cover of Video Watchdog, and you on the cover of the newsletter. And I wanted you guys to have a copy so you could hopefully enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's so weird, it's true. It is a movie that really, as you were saying, it sparked creativity. I look at this movie and its genre-defying manner as a movie that, to me, influenced probably Red State a lot. This movie I just did recently. It's a movie that, when I watch this movie, it just drops you in the middle of it, and you're expected to catch up. It doesn't spoon-feed the movie to you. So watching this movie, man, very influential to me. I'm going to do a gross plug for myself. We're in the middle of the New York Film Festival right now, a world away in Spain. The Sitges Film Festival is happening, and they gave Red State the best film of the festival. that shit don't happen unless I sit down as a 14-year-old and watch a movie that says, I don't give a shit, you'll catch up sooner or later. Think, buddy, think. Like, it doesn't, most audience members kind of get ahead of the movie as they watch it. We've been watching variations of the same themes and stories for so many years that you just sit there and watch a flick, you're like, oh, I know what's going to happen, this is going to happen, this guy's involved, I bet you that's the killer. And this is a movie you can never do that with. And it's inspiring for that reason. It makes you believe, like, hey, man, if they can do it and it stands the test of time, maybe I can do it too. So I thank you guys for that. Let's go back to the audience right there.
Given the nature of viral phenomena in today's media, and really disseminating and disseminating knowledge about a new film from international, how do you think this work with the cinematic work these days? And what do you think the potential would be, and how would you shoot a system?
Real quick, a long question, but to truncate it, was essentially this movie came of age pre-internet, right, is what you're saying, and had its own viral campaign of sorts that went to a few comic book conventions, I remember. The question is, how would it do if it was released today? I just want to...
I think the movie was so ahead of its time in that particular area, it would have benefited enormously by the digital age. You know, because word would have gotten out. You made that point in introducing the film. Everybody would know about Buckaroo Banzai, and everybody would know how cool it was.
And they would talk about weird things, like there's a scene where the dude's like, what's with the watermelon? And he's like, I'll tell you later. You know, so much meme-worthy stuff, like the idea that no matter where you go, there you are. You know, it's full of stuff that the internet would absolutely love. But the other question was, how would they do it differently? How would you do it differently today to exploit
How would they shoot it differently?
Or how would you change the dramatic structure? What would you change about film?
You know, I don't think that Earl Rauch, if he was writing it today, would change the structure of it. I mean, that's the thing what John was just saying. You know, Earl Rauch lost something like 600 pages in the back of his truck of scripts that he was working on while he was shooting Buckaroo, and everybody, all of his friends flipped out, and he said, you know, I could give a shit. It's all in my head, and I'll rewrite it in a second. So I don't think, like the ongoing, you know, tone of Earl Rauch ideas, I don't think he would change a thing. I mean, he was definitely not particularly married to any one thing about it. It was constantly in kind of flux.
It's an interesting question. It's a cheesy looking film in a lot of ways. I mean, the spaceships, those great big blobs, and you know, special effects have become so extraordinarily sophisticated. But I think that I honestly think I so wish that Richter was here and Earl, but I think that appealed to them. I think that they liked the kind of, I remember them talking about the big blob, Mike Riva Creations,
Right.
our production designer. He created the spaceships and the great mess of all the technology and those ridiculous tall bar stools that on those big blob spaceships. It's completely nuts, but they loved that idea. And they wanted everything to look organic. Yes. That was the other thing. They wanted to look like mold that had grown out of control. That was the whole. They wanted it to look kind of.
They loved this ersatz kind of the feel to the whole flick, and so if it was redone today, it was done. If it wasn't them doing it, it wouldn't be this film. It wouldn't be all the things you said.
Right.
You know, it'd be the run-of-the-mill, standard fare.
And all the big franchise films are comic book films now, but this is a real comic book. This is what comic books look like.
And this is a precursor to a lot. I mean, you look at this movie now, and you're like, oh, it plays like a comic book movie. They didn't exist really back then. You know, this is even pre-1989's Batman. It follows Superman, but doesn't follow any Superman structure at all. They've incorporated comic books into their world, and the many things that Buckaroo Banzai does, their exploits are followed every month in a comic book and stuff. And I remember that. The extended universe of it was just, everything about it was delicious, man. It was just like, this just keeps going, and they've got little kids who carry guns. This is amazing. It all happens in New Jersey?
But the great anti-liberal shock, you know, to all of my touchy-feely friends in LA is that the whole fucking band pulls out heat.
They're crime fighters.
You know, that's like,
It makes perfect sense. They're close.
Artie to a point.
Right?
Yes, right there in the middle.
Oh, thank you. This was the defining moment for me in high school. I hung with the good girls and the geeks. And I took the good girls to it on a Friday night after seeing you guys do a press appearance on the John Davidson show. And you couldn't stop laughing. And it was the one time I actually watched the entire John Davidson show. So I took the good girls to it that night. It was Friday night. And we walk out of the theater. I'm like, this was great. And they go, what movie did you watch? So I go back on Sunday afternoon with half of the math team and the president of the physics club. I am now the best girl to take to any party they ever throw. And now these guys have gone on, and two of them are teaching at MIT, and one of them is an Imagineer for Disney. And so it was just, to me, okay, these are the ones you go see the romances with, and this is something that really touched me. Okay, let's get geeks. So I thank you for that.
All the best people love Buckaroo Banzai. Let me just ask, raise your hands if you were seeing it tonight for the first time. Wow.
Wow, that's amazing.
You're the ones who should be up here answering the question.
Buckaroo Banzai.
You know, I'm like Robert Mitchum at this point. Robert Mitchum says, how much and where? You know, I want the loot, and I want, I want the cash, and I want the vacation.
You don't want to be in East Los Angeles.
No. So maybe is the answer to that.
People you met on the film that you're still close with now that you met on the film, and you it seems like the cast is really ensemble, and everyone has a rapport. So has that carried on?
Well, not as much as I would like. I mean, this is the first time I've seen you in ages.
Yeah.
We met on the street not far from
Yeah.
a couple of years ago.
A couple of years ago, but you know, I feel connected to you at the hip anyway. So, you know, and we're friends without having to. You know, I just he was an inspiration because I was a coming actor. He's just like a year or two ahead of me at Broadway, and he was just inspiring me. So I feel that John. The only other friend I do run into the Buckaroo Banzai people once in a while, but the guy who's like most close to me through that, and we were friends before from the theater, was Christopher Lloyd, and another great stage actor. You know, I don't know if you've ever seen him on the stage, man,
But you know, it's in the nature of things that it's a terrible thing that you make such friends and you can go a decade without seeing them.
That's right.
Goldblum has remained a very good friend.
And Goldblum is a very good friend, yeah. Goldblum.
And I just about 3 weeks ago at Mozza Osteria in L.A.
Where I eat every Friday
up came Christopher Lloyd. That's the first time I'd seen him in like 20 years.
Wow.
And it was so great to see him. That's you could ask. I could tell you the same story about every movie I've ever been in and most plays. So it's a sad thing about our business that you do lose touch even with very, very good friends.
So just a quick Christopher Lloyd. Christopher Lloyd looks like an axe murderer, but you know he's really a teddy bear posing as a curmudgeon, and he has a genius IQ. He comes from an extraordinarily wealthy blue blood family in Connecticut. He's contrary to everything you'd imagine about him. But just as a quick anecdote, my closest with him is that I had to fire my PhD advisor a year ago because she resented me from the get-go because of the movies. She never took me seriously, and I couldn't kind of win her over. So I finally had to ask somebody from UC Santa Barbara, an incredible scholar, to take over my advisorship. And long story short, I had to write him and get all the people I knew in scholarship to write him and so forth. And he finally agreed to take a meeting. And I was praying to God that he did not know that I was an actor. And I've had more than my 15 minutes of fame, that he just looked at my scholarship. And so he was a very nice guy, tennis player, athletic guy. And he's going through my list of scholarship at a little Italian restaurant in Montecito. And he said, this looks good, this is good. Yeah, I realized, wow, he's got no clue. Not Peter great guy, just a PhD candidate, wonderful. And all of a sudden, he lives in Montecito. Walking past the window is Lloyd. introduction was Weller. Hug, sits down, says, I'll have a coffee. He's oblivious to this professor who's the head of the University of California, Santa Barbara, named Robert Williams. And he's we go way back. We go way back. We go back to 71. That's how far we go back. What do you do? And the guy says, I'm a professor. He says, what are you doing here? Well, what are you doing? And I see it all going down, man. And this guy is looking at Lloyd, and he's really starstruck, but he's also overwhelmed by the barrage of energy coming out of him. And he goes, you are Christopher Lloyd. Are you Christopher Lloyd, the actor? One of those people who said that? Oh, I said, yeah! That's Peter Weller, the actor. We're actors. But then I have to tell you, the punchline is, guys, like, just the punchline is that, very quickly, is that I see my whole academic career going down the tubes here, because this guy is now, like, on another level. And he said, I don't know if you all realize this, there's a big fire in Montecito about 3 years ago, and Lloyd lost his house. And you see this on TV. He was all over the news about losing his house and everything in it and so forth. And do you know this? Yeah. It was all burned up. And this guy says to Lloyd, sorry about your house. And, sorry about your house. And Lloyd says, yeah, me too. I said, and you lost everything in it? He says, no, not actually. I said, you didn't? He says, no, I've been perpetrating this lie for 3 years. I said, I lost nothing. As a matter of fact, I was selling the house and had everything out of the house. I was moving to a triplex here in Montecito. I said, Chris, we all saw you on TV crying over the fact that you lost it. I know the TV stations were there and it was burning. I was going to sell it anyway. The insurance paid for it. I didn't lose anything. I just told the lie again in the elevator in my bank building. I can't get out of this lie. I'm sorry, I don't know how to go. No, I didn't. But you're the first people I've confessed to. I lost nothing. I lost nothing. And this guy is now laughing so hysterically. At the end of it, Lloyd leaves and he says, listen, you know, I'll take you on just for the entertainment.
I can't thank you guys enough for doing this, man.